Adobe Acrobat Studio, so brand new. Show me all the things PDFs can do. Do your work with ease and speed. PDF Spaces is all you need. Do hours of research in an instant with key insights from an AI assistant. Pick a template with a click. Now your prezzo looks super slick. Close that deal? Yeah, you won. Do that, doing that, did that, done. Now you can do that with Acrobat. Now you can do that with the all-new Acrobat. It's time to do your best work with the all-new Adobe Acrobat Studio.
With the power and endurance of Toyota trucks, you can go to the most incredible places, like this valley, where the echo does different voices.
Hello! Hello! Hello!
We know what we're made of. Toyota trucks.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, some very sad news about that woman who was set ablaze as she was on a Chicago train. Crime across America and soft on crime politicians, including many of them in Chicago. And boy, oh boy, I don't think it's any coincidence that there are so many problems in Chicago and others where there are blue city leaders. Very sad. This girl, this is 26-year-old Bethany McGee. And word coming tonight, of course, she was the one who was doused with gasoline and set ablaze on the city's Blue Line rail system there just a few days ago. And she luckily managed to flee the train and survive. There are so many problems with this story. First off, obviously, why was this madman who set her on fire even out? He had 72 priors. 72 priors. How could this be? And how could this happen? It's just absolutely horrible. And now we're learning more about this young woman, 26 years old. She is from Indiana. She's an animal lover and a churchgoer who graduated from Purdue University. And her family is now mostly covering a lot of the expenses. They've actually set up a victims fund trying to help her in her recovery, saying she is such a lovely, beautiful, like just sweet person. Video games, tabletop playing games, just seems like a gentle, wonderful soul. That's how she's described. And now she's going to spend Thanksgiving in the hospital because she has burns over 60% of her body. And now the hospital there is saying she's going to have a long, long road ahead because this madman was going around. He went to a gas station, filled up gasoline into a jug, and then took it to the subway there in Chicago. You can't make it up. It is absolutely frightening and horrific. And meantime, here is Brandon Johnson, the Chicago mayor. And this is a little clip he said not that long ago about his views of getting tough on criminals. He said, you know what? We can't really jail our way out of it. Maybe this explains why they don't seem to put anybody in jail in a lot of these blue cities. Take a listen.
We cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that. And we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. The addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way to drive violence down.
It's racist to arrest people who keep committing violent offenses on other individuals. Has this guy really lost his mind? He has, I think. They are so caught up in this, oh, we have to help the criminal and don't worry, average civilians, that so many people in the Windy City are now suffering. And it's happening in many cities across this country. It's the same mindset, by the way, that Zoran Mandani has in New York, who is the mayor-elect. Remember, he famously said, open up the jails, that incarceration doesn't really answer anything. So what? You just have to have crazy people roaming the streets and no punishment? That's the way to go? Really frightening times ahead, I think, for New York with this guy who's about to be in control, who's sort of a junior Brandon Johnson, but maybe his ideas are even more radical and more out of touch. And today at the White House, President Trump, as he was pardoning the two turkeys, he came out And he blasted Mayor Brandon Johnson and also Governor J.B. Pritzker from the great state of Illinois.
We could make Chicago a safe city in a period of 4 weeks. In a period of 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks, it would be totally safe. And the people of Chicago want us to go there. And if you look at the crime that's taken place in Chicago in the last 2 weeks, just take a look. It's on the front page of every newspaper. It's out of control. The mayor is incompetent, and the governor is a big fat slob. He ought to invite us in, say, please make Chicago safe. We're going to lose a great city if we don't do it quickly. Make Chicago. We'll do the same thing as we did in D.C., the same thing as we did everywhere we've gone.
And here is a little more from President Trump. He talked about that beautiful woman on the train, Bethany McGee, and what happened to her. Here is cut number 6.
You saw all the crime that took place last night, the night before. The woman with the burning, they burned the woman. To be talking about that now, they burned this beautiful woman riding in a train. A man was arrested 72 times. 72 times, think of that. And they'll let him out again. The liberal judges will let him out again. But we're ready to go. You know, we've been moving toward Chicago. We have a governor that thinks it's wonderful that only like 7 people were killed this week. But we are moving toward doing it, and we're going to, if crime gets, it's horrible what's happening in Chicago.
It is absolutely horrible. And it's also happening in a lot of cities. And sadly, it sounds like it's coming to New York soon, as if New York is not bad enough. By the way, this just coming in. Zoran Mandani, the mayor-elect of New York City, the radical, definitely anti-Semitic New York City mayor-elect. Well, it just turns out that on his transition team, he's putting his transition team together. So far, he's raised $2 million in 2 weeks, which is pretty quick. They think they need probably about $4 million total because they have to pay for the transition and getting up and going and doing all that so he can hit the ground running, but has done a good job so far from a numbers perspective. But listen to who one of his members are. First of all, he has a couple of these members from the Democratic Socialists of America, and those are the ones who are the boycott, divest, and sanction Israel crowd, as we know. Everything there is ultra progressive and ultra I hate Israel. And now also there's somebody else on his transition team. This is interesting. His economic advisor is a reparations activist who says devaluation of Black lives is ingrained in the U.S. system. The reparations activist, who's going to work closely with Mayor-elect Zoran Mandani, is a guy named Derek Hamilton, who argued that the U.S. economy and governmental policies related to it are just simply racist. He seemed to be pretty outspoken. And here's a little thing. He said, since our nation's inception, the immoral devaluation of Black lives has been ingrained in America's political economy and is manifested in a persistent, unjust, and enormous racial wealth gap. That's what he said before Congress in 2021. And he said our unjust racial wealth gap is itself an impact measure and an implicit measure, rather, of our racist past that is rooted in a history in which whites have been privileged by a government complicit in political and economic interventions that have afforded them access to resources and also iterative and intergenerational accumulation. So that sounds like the guy he wants to bring in, because guess what? Remember, he wants to tax the white neighborhoods. So who better than to bring in this guy? This is certainly a sign of what's ahead. Buckle up, New York. It's going to be wild. And as I said yesterday, President Trump is still hearing that he's a fascist from Mandani, even though he invited Mandani graciously to the Oval Office. Mandani returned the favor by calling him a despot and a threat to America and a fascist. And even Mandani will not even credit Trump whatsoever with sealing the border. President Trump has absolutely solved the border crisis. You don't even hear people talking about the border anymore. You hear them talking about immigration, but not so much about the border crisis. It's because he solved it. We didn't need a new policy under Joe Biden. We didn't need it to go to Congress for a bill. We needed a new president. And when we got a new one with President Trump, the whole thing changed. And so it's pretty obvious. You look, there was a sea of people coming in, all the way up to 10 to 20 million. That came in under Joe Biden, and now it's very much closed. I would say it's pretty obvious. Even a 2-year-old could figure it out. But Zoran Mandani is not even gracious enough to compliment President Trump. Even Bernie Sanders says he has seen a marked difference, and he credits the difference between Biden and Trump. That's Bernie Sanders, and that is somebody who's an idol to Zoran Mandani. But here it is. Here is Zoran Mandani just recently. And he said, and this is such a bunch of hogwash. He's like, I don't even think about this. No. I don't even think about the border. I don't think about the presidents. That is a load of blank. Listen to this.
Do you agree with Senator Bernie Sanders that President Trump has done a better job securing the border than former President Biden?
I haven't thought much about comparing presidents on the question of securing the border. I think it's important that it's secure, and I also think it's important that we have an immigration system that is humane. And that's what I spoke about with the president, is that New Yorkers want to see humanity in the policies that are being implemented.
Do you give President Trump some credit for the work that he's done to make the border, in Senator Sanders' estimation, more secure?
What I give President Trump credit for is the meeting that we had yesterday was one that was focused on how we could work together for New Yorkers. And the place that we could do so most effectively, frankly, is ensuring every New Yorker can afford the city they call home.
That's incredible. It's not a trick question. It's pretty obvious. He just got an invitation to the Oval Office. He solicited it, too. Let's not forget. He was begging for it. He got it. And he can't even do the decent thing and say what we all see, that the border is a lot more secure under President Trump. Does anyone out there think that he doesn't think about the border or immigration? He keeps talking about sanctuary city policies. He's saying he's going to keep the sanctuary city policy in New York, which is why I think this bromance is going to be very short-lived. And then he says he doesn't even think about the 2 different presidents. I don't buy any of it. This guy is a bunch of blank. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Robert in Queens. Go ahead, Robert, on line 5. Your thoughts.
Yeah, I was saying all these progressives, and they say, well, jails don't work, police don't work. So what is your solution? They don't have a solution. That's the problem. And in the meantime, people are dying.
Robert, you know what their solution is. Their solution is no jails. And have at it. Good luck on the streets. Every man for himself and every woman for herself.
Right. Well, that means they're very selfish and they don't care if people die in the streets.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but they seem to definitely have their priorities out of whack because they seem to think that, I feel bad for this person. And look, I feel bad for people who have had a tough life. There's no doubt about it, But on the other hand, certain people are absolutely violent. And why should the rest of society suffer because they feel sympathy for this person who's committed these violent offenses? You don't ever hear them say, oh, boy, I feel so terrible for this person. And if that judge had only locked that person up, why is it, Robert? Why is it that they seem to have their priorities so askew? It's like Alice in Wonderland. Why is that?
Because they're stuck in their ideology, and it's very hard for a person to admit that I was wrong. So it's better that people die in the streets than admit I was wrong.
Yeah, or are they like, for some reason, thinking that that's like a good constituency? I mean, honestly, do they think the violent criminal offender is a key voting block? I mean, I'm not even being facetious. It's bizarre.
Right. No, it's just the ideology.
Yeah, I think it is. And it's to the point. But do they live in such a sheltered place, Robert, that they don't realize how dangerous it is?
Yeah, because they didn't have to live. They don't live in the bad neighborhoods. Did Mandani live in a bad neighborhood? Does this governor in Chicago live in a bad neighborhood?
No, great point. And by the way,
and they get their own, and they have their own security also. So why should they care if other people suffer?
That's exactly what I was about to say. You hit it on the head, Robert, because when Mandani got married, remember in Uganda, he had like armed guards all over the compound. And it was supposedly this ultra super lavish wedding with fancy cars. And I have a feeling the average Ugandan doesn't live like that. And you're right. They live in their little own towers and don't realize how dangerous their policies are for the average individual. And the fact that they're willing to allow these people to go back out, decarceration doesn't work. Like what? So what, we're going to have like literally like hell on earth? Go at it, guys. Good luck. Good luck. We're not going to put any of them in jail. How does that keep people safe? And then we're not going to send police to certain calls. I feel like we are really headed to a really scary place. And I think New York is a little experiment for the DSA. That will not be a good one. Robert, thank you very much. 1-800-848-9222 will continue after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's easy to get stuck reaching for the same familiar fruits and vegetables, even when you know a colorful variety is key. Balance of Nature's fruits and veggie supplements don't replace fruits and vegetables, but it makes it easy to add more variety to what you already eat. With 31 ingredients that are whole fruits and vegetables, switching it up is easy because we've already taken care of the hard part. Go to balanceofnature.com and get a free fiber and spice supplement, plus 35% off your first set as a new preferred customer by using discount code POD.
REI Co-op presents a perfect outdoor moment with the perfect gift. Picture this. You're ripping with your favorite person. Bluebird skies, blower powder, and frankly, you're skiing like legends.
So sick. Another lap?
Thanks to REI's curation, from lid to sticks, you nailed the gift.
No way. How'd you know?
Does it get more perfect than that? Give without guessing. Shop in store or visit REI.com.
Hi, I'm here to pick up my son Milo. There's no Milo here.
Who picked up my son from school?
Streaming only on Peacock.
I'm gonna need the name of everyone that could have a connection.
You don't understand. It was just the five of us.
So this was all planned.
What are you gonna do? I will do whatever it takes to get my son back.
I honestly didn't see this coming. These nice people killing each other.
All Her Fault. A new series streaming now only on Peacock.
Getting ready to step into your career era? Set yourself apart with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Hone your skills with apps like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, and more, powered with the latest in creative AI. Students save over 55% so you can build a portfolio you're proud of. Launch your future with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Visit adobe.com/students to learn more.
It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's go to Philly. Let's go to Luciano here on the Rita Cosby Show. Go ahead, Luciano. What do you think?
Yes, Rita, thank you for taking my call. I listen to you every night. Yes, Philadelphia, Donald Trump, Tom Homan says he's getting up to 15,000 ICE agents will be starting work the 26th of January. He said that he's going to go into Philadelphia, Chicago, New York City, and he also said, Donald Trump said, if he doesn't get cooperation from all these major cities that are sanctuary cities, he's going to not give them federal funds. What do you think about that, Rita?
Well, I think that they need to be cooperating with ICE, especially if you listen to some of the people that they're rounding up. And, Tom Homan's a great example of leading, from the top there. He has said I've talked to him. He's listed some people that are, child murderers, rapists. I mean, really horrible people. And yet in a lot of these sanctuary cities, they're blocking them. They're not cooperating. I mean, especially if they're people with some very violent backgrounds, they better cooperate. And that's why, it's interesting you bring up the timing, because that means indeed just what I said, that this sort of bromance, if you will, between Trump And Mandani's not going to last long because Mandani says he's going to block NYPD from cooperating with ICE. And that's going to get really, really tricky, and it's going to get really contentious really soon.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Jay Kelly, the new film from Academy Award nominee Noah Baumbach. George Clooney stars as an actor confronting his past and present on a journey of self-discovery, alongside Adam Sandler as his devoted manager. Critics are calling it a declaration of love to the chaotic art of filmmaking, with the Wall Street Journal praising it as a transcendent comedy drama. Jay Kelly is now playing in select theaters and on Netflix December 5th.
You don't technically need this car. You say that out loud to yourself. You say, I have no space. You say, I'm just looking. Then you click. Then you zoom in on photo number 87 and whisper, oh no. Then you text a friend, the one who always enables you. You say to yourself, this is the last one, knowing it is not. You don't need this car. But maybe, just maybe, this car needs you. Bring a trailer. It's never just a car.
Every day, thousands of Comcast engineers and technologists like Olu Shei are working to build the best sports viewing experience.
Some of my favorite moments throughout my life are watching sports with my dad. Now I work at Comcast as part of the team that created our AI highlights technology, which uses AI to detect the major plays in a sports game.
And now, millions of sports fans will never miss a moment. Visit ComcastCorporation.com/sports to learn more.
Rita Cosby is on. The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this Back the Blue segment coming from Atlanta, Georgia, where police officers responded to a massive apartment explosion that destroyed half of an apartment complex near the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Now, the blast happened, and residents said they suddenly smelled gas for hours before the explosion. They reported it to several officials, but several families were jolted awake by the blast, and at least one person was seriously injured, sustaining major burns. Well, Atlanta PD arrived on the scene that evening. They found the second floor of the building completely leveled and flames still burning. When they suddenly started checking for injured persons, they heard somebody yelling, indicating that somebody was clearly still trapped inside the rubble amid a very strong odor of gas throughout the complex. Very dangerous situation. Well, one of the officers, with the assistance of another officer, located and rescued an older man who was trapped between the stairwells and had sustained very severe burns. Together, they pulled the man from the rubble and they took him to the police car. Soon after that, the building collapsed. And needless to say, the man was taken very quickly to the hospital. He had very severe burns, but is expected to survive. By the way, 40 people were initially displaced just after this incident, and many more were expected after that. Boy, oh boy, what a very dangerous situation. And thank goodness they saved that elderly man. Well, everybody, as we are talking this holiday season, be sure to help those in need. Help the Red Apple Audio Networks feed those in need. And go to redappleaudionetwork.com/turkey. Join Red Apple Audio Network's AARP New York City, the Police Athletic League, Christie's and D'Agostino supermarkets, and nationwide imaging services as we deliver holiday meals to more than 5,000 families across New York City. It is a really beautiful mission, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. Go to redappleaudionetwork.com/turkey. That's redappleaudionetwork.com/turkey. And do whatever you can to give back. And everybody have a great and safe and healthy Thanksgiving. That is what it's all about, is giving back and remembering those less fortunate. Well, we are talking about what's ahead for New York City, and it is going to be a mess under Zoran Mandani. If you look at all the people he's putting in his cabinet. And just a little bit ago, it also came out that sort of his mentor, if you will, she's an activist for sure, Linda Sarsour, definitely anti-Semitic with so many of her views. She is a pro-Palestinian activist. And just this week, she did a webinar that was hosted by a Muslim advocacy group. And she said that divesting and boycotting and sanctioning Israel, which is that BDS movement that we always talk about, being anti-Israel, she said, is not a political liability. That's pretty scary to hear. In other words, it's okay. You can still win and get to the mayor's office. And she even kind of boasted about it with Zoran Mandani and said, that philosophy, don't worry about it. It actually sends you to City Hall. What does that say? Not only about the arrogance of that statement and the anti-Semitic nature of that statement, but also what it means for future races. Do they now feel emboldened? I don't think you want to be, certifying and giving credibility to that kind of movement. But sadly, Zoran Mandani won. And she's now bragging, saying it doesn't matter if you're anti-Semitic, you can still make it to Gracie Mansion. That's not a very pretty picture. And needless to say, Zoran Mandani is all full of bluster. He went to the Oval Office, and I want to play again what he said because he left, and then soon afterwards, he was on the Trump is a threat to democracy bandwagon.
You've also said in the past that President Trump has engaged in a, quote, attack on our democracy. You've called him a despot. Do you still believe President Trump is a threat to the democracy?
Everything that I've said in the past, I continue to believe. And that's the thing that I think is important in our politics, is that we don't shy away from where we have disagreements, but we understand what it is that brings us to that table. Because I'm not coming into the Oval Office to make a point or make a stand. I'm coming in there to deliver for New Yorkers. And a few weeks ago, I was asked by a reporter 3 words to describe myself. I said, New York City. And that's what animated that conversation. How do we deliver for the people of New York City?
And then he was asked about the fascist line. Let's not forget this. He's it looks like rewriting what happened in the Oval Office.
NYPD would be the ones to do so.
In that press conference with President Trump, a reporter asked you whether you believe that President Trump is in fact a fascist, a word that you've used in the past. You were about to answer. Then President Trump sort of jumped in and he said, quote, that's okay. You can just say yes. It's easier than explaining it. So, Mr. Mayor-elect, just to be very clear, do you think that President Trump is a fascist?
And after President Trump said that, I said yes. And
so you do?
And that's something that I've said in the past. I say it today. And I think what I appreciated about the conversation that I had with the president was that we were not shy about the places of disagreement, about the politics that has brought us to this moment. And we also wanted to focus on what it could look like to deliver on a shared analysis of an affordability crisis for New Yorkers.
Really bizarre. He's not backing away. I mean, that's the whole thing about everything he's saying. He's still steadfast. He's holding on to that. There is no doubt about it. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. And he's bringing in Linda Sarsour. He's bringing in the Democratic Socialists of America. He's bringing in this guy who says that America is essentially inherently racist. That's going to be his economic advisor. I will give Zoran Mandani credit so far. He's keeping his campaign promises. That's the nicest thing I can say about him. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Robert in Brooklyn on line 5. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. Well, Judenrein, it was the term that they used in Nazi Germany. They wanted Jew-free. And apparently Linda Sarsour is saying that it's not a liability, that Israel, the Holy Land, should be Jew-free. I mean, anyone, according to who could come to the United States but Jewish people can't live in Israel. And when she says that's not a liability, that statement is horrific because it shows the horrific indoctrination of the students who've gone to the educational indoctrination camps, and the terrible media that's the propaganda defaming, calling what's right wrong and what's wrong right. Now, I just want to point out, I'm been a Republican since around 2016. I wanted to vote for President Trump against Ted Cruz. I'm probably going to switch from the Republican Party to the Democrat Party. Not that I agree with almost anything the Democrat Party stands for, but in New York City and even in New York State, the Democrat primary seems to determine who gets elected to office. Unfortunately, once someone gets the Democrat, becomes part of gets a Democratic nomination, that almost guarantees they will win a citywide election and even a statewide election. So I would encourage everyone, whether they're Republican or independent, even if they disagree vehemently with almost everything the Democrat Party stands for, to consider registering as a Democrat to prevent people like extremists like Mandani from winning. So this way, someone like Cuomo would win in the primary. That's the first thing. Now, in terms of the rhinos are Republicans in name only who campaign on MAGA, but when they get there, they don't deliver. Mandani, as horrific as Mandani is, when he promises something, he seems to be standing by what he campaigned on. Now, you have a choice right now. We have the DSA, Democrat Socialists of America, who want to defund the police. So they want to endanger our life by not providing us police. Then you have the Republicans who want to take away our health care and our food stamps, and not all of it is fraud. There are a lot of innocent people who are going to lose health care and food stamps because of the Republicans. And so we have to choose between the DSA, who wants to take our police protection away, and the Republicans who want to take our health care and our food stamps away.
All right. Hey, Robert, I don't want to revisit all this again, but what I will tell you is a lot of the issues, and yes, you're right, not all of it is fraud, but they are also trying to vet people that could be able-bodied and working. I know that's, there are some different criteria. There's different reasons why people can't work. And I also think people that are in dire need do deserve it. There's no question. Look what we give to illegal immigrants. We should certainly obviously be taking care of our own first. So you and I agree on that. But I also do think there's a lot more fraud than you seem to give it credit for. And that's their mission, is to weed out fraud, and those who deserve it that are indeed legal citizens should continue getting it. That's the philosophy from the GOP side, if you will. So to me, the fact that you would say it's like a one or the other, I don't think it's as stark as you think it is. And I think the Republicans, one thing I do think the Republicans need to do a better job of messaging. There's no doubt about it. But it's interesting. You talked about sort of a schism in the MAGA movement. There is not. If you look at, there's a little bit when you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, who just, said that she's not going to run for re-election. And obviously there's a few things there. But this is interesting. I wanted to play this, Robert, because this was a guy, this is Harry Enton, and this is sort of the poll guy over there on CNN. Again, CNN of all places. And he said, looking at the polls, he has never seen in modern times a president in his second term who has been able to control and have his approval ratings the same amount that he had when he started. So in other words, he has not dropped. Usually you always drop in that second term because it's second go round. It's like, okay, I'm not as happy as I thought I would be. There's all this energy in the first term. And yet President Trump is uniquely apparently keeping his support within MAGA. Take a listen.
So is the president losing Republicans?
No. Look, this is still Donald Trump's Republican Party, and we can see it here. It's like a rock, to quote Bob Seger. Take a look here. Republicans who approve of Trump. 6 months ago, it was 87%. Now, well, hello, it's the same number. It's 87%. He has not lost any support among Republicans compared to 6 months ago. As I said at the beginning, he's like a rock. He's like a rock. The Republican base is sticking by Donald Trump at this point in time.
It really is interesting to watch his overall approval rating go down, 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 but see this be completely constant here.
It is among independents. It is not among Republicans.
Okay, so how does this compare to past presidents in a second term?
Yeah, okay. I think this gives the game away, right? Which is Donald Trump, if you look at 21st century presidents' own party approval at this point in term two, who leads the pack? It's Donald John Trump. 87% of Republicans approve of Donald John Trump. You go back to 2013, 78% of Democrats supported Barack Obama, and it was 78% of Republicans who supported George W. Bush back in 2005 at this point. So Donald Trump has the biggest highest own party approval of any president who served their entire second term in the 21st century.
You could look at this one of two ways. You could say, obviously, he's doing way better than past presidents. Or you could say, there is still room to settle. If there is a reversion to the mean here, if that does fall further, that could chip into his overall approval rating. Okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene resigning from Congress in January. One of the concerns is that Donald Trump backed someone in a primary against her. How has Donald Trump done in his congressional endorsements?
You know, when you go up against Donald Trump, you're going up against a buzzsaw because Donald Trump's endorsement record is, it's hard to find anyone else who beats it. Times Trump endorsees won GOP primaries. In 2020, it was 98%. 2022, it was 95%. In 2024, it was 96%. And I will note, the majority of times that Donald Trump backed a challenger to an incumbent like Marjorie Taylor Greene, that challenger won a majority of the time. The bottom line is this. There was a real reason why Marjorie Taylor Greene decided, you know what, it's not worth the fight, because more times than not, when you go up against Donald Trump in a Republican primary, you lose.
Not just more times than not, almost all times.
Almost all of the times, yes.
Based on these. All right, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's saying she's not going to run for president, but there are other questions, which is, hey, is she going to stay a Republican even? What do the markets think about that?
All right, so we go to the prediction markets here, and the chance to leave the Republican Party by January 1st of 2027. You can see it, 31%. I think this is a pretty good baseline, which is more likely than not Marjorie Taylor Greene will stay within the Republican ranks, but there's actually a pretty decent chance that she doesn't. And then that becomes really interesting to see what she has to say about Republicans and Donald Trump in particular if she decides to wave adios amigos.
This is the Republicans, the prediction market saying there is a chance.
There is a chance.
Harriet, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very interesting analysis. Robert, go ahead real quick in Brooklyn. Your thoughts?
Well, Rita, I love Donald Trump, even though there's some issues I disagree with. He's the greatest. Just the fact that he closed the border, that in itself makes him priceless. He's one of the greatest, if not the greatest president ever. However, that doesn't mean I support the rhinos. They didn't approve one recess appointment they didn't give him. They didn't codify almost all of his stuff. So, and then Mandani pointed out when he had the meeting that some of the people who voted for him voted for Trump because they're raising some issues that overlap, like affordability. You have a guy like Elon Musk who got $1 trillion, not a million, not a billion, $1 trillion. Meanwhile, people, they're going to grudge them their food stamps and their health care. This is not acceptable, Rita. And the rhinos, they're going to suffer. And I hope they lose the House. I hope they lose the House.
Wow. And so what? You want them to lose the House so it'll be impeachment central? Is that what you want, Robert? You want the whole country to be in gridlock? Because that's what you're asking for.
If the Republicans keep the Senate, then it won't matter because they'll have the Senate, so they'll stop the impeachment.
Yeah, they'll stop it, but it'll go through this massive impeachment process every single time in the House. Good old Al Green and his cane wagger is going to be there like, I bet you on day one. He's going to be, let's do this. They will try to gridlock anything because also not only does impeachment, but a lot of legislation gets initiated there. So everything will get blocked. And, it's basically, yeah, you're right. It'll be blocked when it gets to the Senate if they try to push something. But also, if the House is in Democratic hands, they will block anything. They're blocking taking out drug dealers. They're having a problem with Donald Trump taking out drug boats with drug lords. I mean, these people will drop everything, and that's the problem. It will be real gridlock. The one thing, though, Robert, and you brought this up last night, and I think this is a great point, that Congress needs to hurry up and codify a lot of his stuff. Because if they don't codify a lot of his stuff, and there is gridlock, like we're talking about with a divided Congress, if that were to happen in the midterms, and then it's the end of Donald Trump's term, he can't run again. Then a lot of these things, whoever comes in next, if it's not a Republican, they will erase a lot of those things. And that is really dangerous. I agree with you. I think a lot of the big things he's done, you don't want them to be temporary. You want it to be permanent. So you bring up some superb points, my friend. We're going to continue, everybody, after the break. 1-800-848-9222. Where is this headed? And boy, oh boy, do you really think that Mandani voters were voting for Trump? Mandani said there were some people I know in the GOP circles believe there was some overlap. I quite frankly don't think that much. I think if you like, a Democratic socialist who's anti-Semitic, you may not like Trump. I sort of think they're two different people. Maybe there's a little bit of overlap, but I don't think there's that much. I think he was just trying to schmooze Trump. That's my thoughts. We'll talk about it after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Okay, only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first... there, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana. ¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kan du norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And coming up in the next hour, just when I thought that Democrats were doing enough to block ICE, now they have set up what's called an ICE tracker. And wait till you hear what it does and the whole purpose of it. Plus also Senator Mark Kelly, he and the seditious six. Now the FBI is investigating all of these Democrats who put that video together and said, hey, military officers, you can defy orders. Don't worry. Stand down. We got your back. They are now being investigated. And in fact, Mark Kelly, who is doubling down, well, he may be having to visit the Pentagon very soon. And he might even be court-martialed. I mean, there's some pretty serious allegations here. We're going to get into that and so much more. I cannot believe that they would actually do sort of a call to defy orders and ask military members to do that. They know better. We know what this is about. Let's go to Pete in Staten Island on line 3. Pete, how are you? You and Renee, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Rita, and to all the listeners out here. And thank you, 77 WABC, for your generosity with turkeys. Dinners, 5,000. That's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that are hurting. You know, Renee and I, we try to do the best we can to help a couple of our neighbors and stuff. And, you know, it's every little bit, if everybody helps out, it adds up. So
absolutely. Do your part. How beautiful, yeah. Pete. Now, what, by the way, Pete, what do you think is going to happen with, real quick, with Trump and Mandani?
Well, I think that Donald Trump has Mandani under his thumb. It's the art of the game. Probably the only book I ever read in my life was that book. And Renee read it to me because I'm not a reader. But, it's
the art of the deal, right? The art of the deal. And, you know what? I think he understands who he's playing with Mandani, his little commie.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?